Good evening, team. We will start the session sharp at 7 p.m. Let's just wait for another 2 to 3 minutes. Thank you. So, a very warm good evening to each and everyone who have joined for this session. So, we could see a lot of candidates have joined in the Zoom, and we also have a lot of candidates even in our YouTube channel also. So, a very hearty welcome to all. So today, this session will be basically, it will be into the SQL queries. So basically what will be a DB testing and how a manual or an automation tester plays an important role with all these queries and also. So with the team of Skura, we have Vineet. So he'll be taking the session. So this will be a sharp 1.5 hour session, and we'll be trying to wind up this session at 8:30. We had also given the MS SQL installation link, so I hope you all are ready with the editor. So this will be more or like a hands-on session. Over to you, Vineet. I mean, it's all yours.
Hey, thank you, Manu, and thank you, folks, for joining the session. Uh, First of all, a warm welcome. And so here today we would be going through a session. What is the essential SQL skill set probably needed for a QA engineer? Can be a manual tester or a automation or an automation tester. If you are into testing, what is the essential qualities that you would need, and what are the SQL, the requisites, that prerequisites that you would need before you step into such a role. This is primarily what we would go through, and we would also have a hands-on session on the basic SQL querying. So before we actually get into the session, I would like to know, I would definitely want this to be an interactive session. So if you guys can kind of, put in chat, just to know the audience, what is the kind of experience that you guys have with database testing, or as a database tester, or SQL tester, or ETL tester. If you can give me that in the chat, we can try and see what can be tailored for the session.
Yeah, guys, I mean, if you could use in the type chat window to tell us the kind of the level of exposure you have in this IT industry. I mean, people with above 5 years or people with less than 2 years. I mean, this will really help us, right, Vineet?
Right. So in the meanwhile, what we will do is we'll just go ahead with our session. Okay. All right. So what is database testing? What is your role? What does a database tester do? So as you all know what data, I'm assuming that you guys know what a database is. It is the back end. It is the guts of all these systems. That is how I would call it. It is a guts. And database testing involves, it's a type of software testing. It involves you check as a tester. It involves you checking the schema, the tables, the triggers, the business logics, etc. It also goes through. You need to check what is the data integrity. Sorry, am I audible?
Yeah. Right now you are. Go ahead.
Okay. So let's go ahead like this. What is the objective? So we need to ensure that the essential data mapping is correct. What do you mean by data mapping? For example, you have a system where you have an application where you log in some data. That is the front end which you see, and whatever is keyed in is getting entered as expected into the database, and it's not just entered. Are you able to retrieve it as expected?
Hey, Vineet, I think we lost you.
I'm sorry, guys. Can you just give me like 1 minute? I'll be back.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry about
okay. Okay, sure. So, guys, just a note. So, have you everyone installed MS SQL? I mean, can you just type in? I mean, have you faced any issues while installing MS SQL? Because we're gonna do the practical side along. I mean, he'll be trying to help you in creating a basic table structure, starting from the table structure to all the basic queries, including joins and also can you just type in? I mean, have you installed it or is the editor ready? MS SQL. Any response will be really appreciated. Yeah, great. So yeah, awesome, great. Thanks all. I mean, I could see a number of responses coming out right now. Yeah. So all are ready. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's wait another 10 to 20 seconds for Vineet. Vineet, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. Yeah, let's continue.
Okay. So as I was explaining, as a database tester, you are what are your roles? What is expected from a quality assurance engineer who is involved in database or ETL testing? Um, so we need to make sure that the user interface, that is the front end, and the database tables are mapped correctly. We should ensure that the asset properties, the acidic properties, will not be going in detail about the acidic properties. But as an example, let's just take, let's say, atomicity. None of the transactions which happen, it cannot be a half-cooked data. Like if you have done it, it's done, or else it is not. So that is what is it's called as atomicity. If time permits, we will get into details of the other things. But yeah, so moving on, we should ensure data integrity. So data integrity means, that is what we were just discussing, like data getting entered from your application or the friend user interface, and we need to ensure that that is the same data that is getting retrieved afterwards. It's, let's say you have already entered user information, a patient's, let's take a person's name. A person is a very basic entity which you can take. So what are the kind of fields that you would enter for a person? Let's say the first name, the last name, his age, date of birth, the person's sex, address, email ID. So a person wants to change his last name. Let's say he got married, or he moved up. He just changed his name. It can be whatever. So the initial stage, he entered something like John Luke, and later on the name he wants to change his first name. Let's say he wants to become Marshall Luke. Now at some point of time, he changed. Yesterday he was John Luke, and today he changed his name to Marshall Luke. Now we need to make sure that from today onwards, this person is Marshall Luke, not John Luke. That is what I mean by data integrity. We need to make sure about the business rule. This is very important because usually when we come to database testing, from my experience, I have seen a lot of people paying a lot of attention to technical stuffs, but they forget the business rule applications. This, I would say, it is very important that a quality assurance engineer should be aware of the business rules, because mostly your job would involve, let's take an example, a stock procedure, and why we use stock procedures are usually to define stock procedures, or functions are used to define a set of business rules. I'm talking this from a purely database developers, a business intelligence developer perspective. So you really need to know the business, and really need to be able to and see data if it's actually expected, what the business needs. And in that case, that is where, in fact, your SQL query skills will come into picture. For example, let's say there is we are the pharmaceutical business, and there's a certain drug that should not be sold to a person who is um, less than 21 years of old. In that case, one of the testing, what you should make sure that all the data that is entered within the database it follows that rule, that there is no patient who has a shipment or an order that has been placed for a person who is less than 21 years of age. Now, these are the areas where your SQL skill sets will come into picture. That is when you'll start actually querying the database. And yeah, that's why your SQL skill set is essential. Moving on. So, what are the attributes that you would be testing within within your scope of responsibility? You need to check if the transactions are happening as expected. As I told you, like there should never be an input data. So if it's either done or not, think about a situation where you are withdrawing money from ATM and your transaction just got cancelled in between for some reason. There is no money. You already entered the amount that is being expected to be dispensed, and you, for some reason, a network issue or whatever, your transaction got cancelled. That we cannot, from a database perspective, a designer's perspective, you cannot consider it as a completed transaction. The data should be, it should be what was previously, because you, in fact, did not get, looking at the real life example, what happened? You never got your money. So the database should reflect exactly that. Like your from your account, the money shouldn't be deducted, or if it's already been deducted, you need to make sure that after the transaction, has it been have you got it back, and does the total remain the same? Now, that is in case you have missed a transaction. If once you finish a transaction, make sure that the withdrawed amount has been deducted from your totals. So these are just some real life scenarios which we are explaining. So in the same way, I want to say like database schemas, triggers, procedures. These are all technical terms, but when I say schema, business would say for a person, these are the attributes that I should have in my database. So you need to make sure that maybe from front end you have I need the sex of the person, I need the address of the person, but my I also need the my business might be localized. Maybe it is just in Kerala. Let's say an e-commerce site. Right now they're only focusing in Kerala, but the business has plans to expand. So the developer might have thought, okay, why is it that like I just need to, our business is only in Kerala, so I stop my geographical dimension. I stop it at the state level information. I don't go for the country level information. I don't go to the other levels. Maybe he's not considering that, okay, the business might have there is a plan that they might expand this to different countries, but the business is already set. But right now the developer is right, because he doesn't have to store that data, because we don't have business outside of this state. But the business is already defined that, okay, I need the country level information here. Now you need to make sure that what the business has asked is already there. So this is the structure. Basically, it's the structure of data that you will be checking. So triggers, it is an on-event action. So a person, take an example where age is a limit. Somebody who is less than 21 years of age are not allowed to log into a particular website. So you can always, that is a trigger when the person tries to log in, or from a particular location you're not allowed to log in. You need to make sure these are all again business attributes. So it might be written in different objects within the database, because all these are different objects. A trigger is an object, a procedure is an object, trigger is an on event object. As the name suggests, it triggers something at a particular event, and you can write certain conditions. Okay, this is what, in case of such event, this is what is going to happen. An example would, another perfect example would be the ATM example, what we told. The transaction was in between, just in case something has been lost. Yeah, that is a trigger. And you say, okay, roll back everything. That is an example which you can say. And procedures, as we already just came across this as a glimpse about the business rules being written. Usually stored procedures are where all the business rules are written, and so you need to know to go there and query how to execute a stored procedure, how to pass parameters. If the stored procedure is giving you an output, there's an output parameter, and based on that you have to execute something else. So these are the areas where you would actually need this SQL skill set. Getting to there is a bit more, it's a bit more technical. I would say more than beginners, what a beginner needs. So yeah, so these are some of the attributes which you you need to know.
Yeah, great, Vineet. Yeah, I mean, as a tester, I mean, most of us might have never ever expected all these things. So I think this was a great insight as a starting. I mean, these are all the things that happens as a database developer. These are the things that happen. So most of the time, I mean, we as a tester never knew actually what is happening behind the scenes. So that's what Vineet was trying to explain, right, Vineet? I mean, so this was a great start, right? Yeah, let's move on, Vineet.
Thank you. So now let's get into the key terminologies. In fact, I think I missed. I should have started off with our agenda. I think I missed that particular slide. So we have covered what is database testing. ETL testing is essentially, it stands for extract, transform, and load. So ETL, we have a lot of tools. An example from Microsoft Stack, we have SSIS, we have Informatica, one of the giants. So these are like just two examples. Essentially, even though we call it as in the job industry, we call there is ETL testing, there is database testing. Even if you're an ETL tester, you need to know everything about database testing, because essentially ETL is just playing around with data, and it is just like, are you using Snapseed or Photoshop? You have different tools. You just play around with the data there also. So I would say that anyone who doesn't have a database testing skill set cannot come into ETL testing picture. So this is the base what you need to build up, and then we'll get to ETL testing. And yeah, probably sometime later, I hope that we can discuss about the tools and different tools, and probably we can get introduced on that. Objectives and attributes of database testing. Yes, we have technically covered that. Now, what is a PAD tool? Let's go through some key terms in the SQL Server. So SQL, as such, it stands for Structured Query Language. Is a very common terminology. In this session, we would be focusing on MS SQL. That is the SQL stack from Microsoft. We have PLSQL. Essentially, the concepts are all same, because all of these are based on the relational database management system, RDBMS concepts. As the name suggests, it's a relational database management, which means the data is related to each other. Let's say all of these systems table is a concept. Table is where we actually store the data. A two-dimensional model, that is where we store the data. An example, as I said, is a person, and we usually name the tables based on the attribute definitions. So when we say person, we know that what the table would call. We can call a table with the name person. We will get into that when we create a table and we start querying table. It will actually make a lot of sense at that time. So SQL is the language which is used to query data from an RDBMS system, RDBM system. And usually from now on, we would actually be moving into the actual SQL environment, and we will start things from here. All right. Now, till now, do you guys need me to go through something which we have already discussed, or is it good enough that we continue? I'll take a 30 seconds to 1 minute short break. In the meanwhile, you can share everything in the chat.
Yeah, so probably the next thing that we're gonna do is like, I mean, you guys can open the editor. In fact, if someone has joined in mobile, I mean, maybe they can open the MS SQL if the installation is ready, because now we're gonna start with the real queries. So just a question, I mean, is there any doubt for anyone till the topics we discussed till now? I mean, if anyone have any doubt or something, feel free to type in the chat window. We'll try to help you out. So till the topics that we covered till now, I know it's very high level. If anyone have any kind of doubts or anything, please feel free to type. Okay, I think there's no doubt. I mean, someone in the YouTube was also mentioning so far so good. So we are good to continue with the practical sessions, Vineet.
Okay, that's great. So what we would go from here is okay. Here, let's just take this as an example. And these are the terminologies which actually everyone would face in an interview when you are up for a job or an upgrade or want to get into database testing. This is where usually it all starts, because as if I was going ahead, I wanted to know the technical skill set of a person. This is the basic start. This is where we start with the DDL. What is DDL? What is DML? What is DCL? So that is why we will not spend too much time over here, but I just want you to understand this core concept. What does it mean by data definition language? When we say data definition language, it means you are in fact defining the physical structure. An example again, we go back, as I said, what the business needs to business says, okay, hey, these are the attributes I need to know about a person. This is what I need in the database. These are the data which we should hold. So that is it's they are defining what the data should be. So which means it includes creation of those tables, creation of different integrity constraints, foreign keys, the primary key, foreign key, and so it's a few the drop command, create commands, drop commands. These are our data definition language. It actually doesn't play with data, but it's the structure that we define over there. Now, the second thing is what is a DML? What is a data manipulation language? As the name says, you are manipulating the data. It means you want to query the data. You write a select statement. That is a manipulation language. That is a manipulation. You want to insert certain data into a particular table. You write an insert command. That is you are manipulating the data. You want to update it. Update a statement. Particular data. About an example is just John Luke becoming Marshall Luke today, and you want to take his first name from John to Marshall. This is a classic example where it is a DML statement, and I would say that that is the way an interviewer actually extracts from you when you see what is the data. Like instead of this is just a guideline probably, like which you can, from my experience, if somebody asks you what is data definition, what is a DDL and DML, don't just say DDL stands for data definition language and DML stands for data manipulation language. Instead, always try to explain them with an example, a very crisp example that would change the whole game. And another thing, another one, just like DDL and DML, is the DCL, which is the data control language. And control means it's the who gets, it's about the accesses and who gets what. So you're controlling the data's availability to each person, its user, probably. That is a data control language. And also, I have not put it here, there is also something called as a TCL. TCL stands for transaction control language, and that is something probably usually people don't mention TCL. TCL is the rollback and commit. If you have actually worked in SQL Server in database before, you know what is a rollback and commit. So if you're not, one of the examples is our ATM transactions. What we mentioned, a transaction is a set of technically it is just a set of commands. So we transaction control means we put in a certain situation, like to maintain the atomicity. If it's either done or it's not, there's no half-cooked data. So if a transaction went ahead, then you always commit it, saying that okay, hey, this money has been detected and this data, the balance have to be updated. So you can commit the balance amount. But what if the transaction failed in between? What would you do? That is when you have to roll back, because what should have been, we should roll it back to the previous state, because we actually have not got the money. So your balance should not be negated. Your total should not be negated with the amount which you tried to withdraw. So you roll back your transaction. So that is something which I think might help you guys. And something to, something which we have put here. I think during our discussion, we've already gone through this, what is table, that's a relational RDBMS concept. A table is where actually we hold our data, and it's usually consists of a lot of columns. And when I say column, column is associated with a particular field, and field is what usually this is a difference. A developer would say a column, business would say call it a field. Right? For a developer, the person's first name is a column, but for business it is a field. It's an attribute. A record is every what we call a record is the row of the table. So when we say there are 1,000 records, it means there are 1,000 rows in a table. These are synonymous. I believe we can go ahead to the coding part. We'll start with the coding.
Yeah, let's start with the editor. I mean, I think people will be curious to type in few queries in their SQL editor. So let's go with that. Yeah.
This is right. Do you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we could see your editor.
Okay, awesome. So if you guys already have if you folks have your query window open, let's actually start with the basic thing what we said right now. What is a table? Let's just create a table. So the command for creating a table, we said it's a DDL command, and it's create table, and we were talking about a person. Let's go ahead with person. Person. Okay. Let's also define a schema. DBO is, even if I create something with create table person, there would be a database or a schema automatically created for it. Schema is basically some schemas when you need, let's say, the same business unit. I have an office in Cochin. I have an office in Trivandrum. Now my schema, if I, and the person is person always. So one way to segregate that data is I can define a new schema called as for COK. I can define something for Trivandrum by TVM. So instead of DBU, I can create something like COK dot or TVM dot. But here, let's just go ahead with the default one. So it's always create the table name. So it's create table schema name dot table name, and then we start defining our columns, the fields. So every column, this is like my design principles. I would always define an identity column everywhere and make sure that it is an integer one. This is also another question, something which is an interesting question. Usually you would get almost like, what is a surrogate key and a business key? What is the difference between a surrogate key and a business key? The ID here is the will be my surrogate key. We'll get into it why it is called as a surrogate key. So let's just keep it as an integer column here. And what do I need? I need the first name of a person, and it's a text field in SQL Server. What we call is, let's define it as a varchar. And this is again a pointer. Always look like the column and the column name, what data it is going to hold, and the data types and the length of it should match. So it doesn't make any sense if I write like, okay, first name is 1,000 characters long name, because that is not going to happen. This is something as a quality assurance engineer, you can check the schema of the table, and you can actually challenge a developer saying, okay, which person is going to have a name with 1,000 letters? Have you actually seen it? It doesn't make any sense. And it is going to, when you create something like this, it is actually going to take space. It is going to allocate 1,000 characters for each row that you enter. And in fact, when it goes to millions of rows, this is in fact going to create a bottleneck. So this doesn't make any sense. Let's say we are going to create some name with 25 characters. So I have first name. Now I need last name. Similarly, put it as 25 for now. I have age. Age is of course a number, so it's an integer. And let's get to date of birth. Date of birth is a date field. So let's define it as date. And let's create one more column, or let's tie this person to a geography. Let's put city. City is again varchar, and we'll use we instead of city, let's say let's use a city code. So I'll just write, let's use the name city underscore code, and it's going we are all we're going to define it as a 3-letter one. For example, as we said for COK, like Kochi, COK, Trivandrum is TBM. For Mumbai, it's MUB. But yeah, so this is what we are going to do. Now, if you execute it, what will happen? Yeah. So I got an error saying there is already an object named person, which means I have already created this before. So what I'll do is I'll drop this table. So this is the other DDL command. I need to drop this table. I again got another command error saying that could not drop the object because it is referenced by a foreign key constraint. We would actually get into this, but now that I actually know what the reason problem is, I have already created another table previously for this role. I need to drop it. So what I had, we'll get into it. Don't focus on this for now. Why this happened? We'll definitely get into that. Okay. Now I have dropped the table. Now, one statement which I wanted to show was right now we were doing this manually, but instead I can just write a statement called as so. What it essentially does is it just checks if a table named dbo.person exists. If it exists, it will just drop it and then create. Let's see if we already have this created. We have a table created. Now, so we have the schema done. We have gone through the DDL area. Now let's go to the DML, data manipulation language. So this is the stage, like initially the database developer has already created a particular schema. Now let's say an application went live and we are gathering a person's information, let's say login page, and the person is entering this data. I also want to include one more column here. Let's include email. Okay. So okay, so the schema is created. Now let's write this statement. Let's write an insert statement. Because we're going to insert, obviously insert data. Insert into the table name dbo.person, comma ID is 1, first name is John, last name is Luke, age is 30. What is the date of birth? Date of birth is 1/14/, that's date of birth. What is the email? John dot or let's just say Amazon.com. And the city code is, and let's see if this data is getting, there is something wrong with this statement. What is it? So we have to mention that insert into table values. Okay, let's run it and see if data is getting inserted. Yeah, so we got John Luke's information. Now, same man, let's just insert a couple of more records for the sake of okay. So we got all the data. Now, as I told you before, like I always create this ID column because I wanted to use it as a surrogate key. When I say surrogate key is, it should act as an identifier. It should be unique. It should be the primary key for my column. So there are certain properties for a type primary key. A primary key shouldn't be null. It should always be unique. So you need to be able to identify a record exactly with a primary key. There cannot be any duplicates for a primary key. Now, in this case, I am going to define my ID as the primary key, and for that, what I need, and also I don't want it to be filled manually. Okay, so but from a business point, this doesn't make any sense, right? So let me make it as automatically populated one identity, and I am also defining it as primary key. Now, see what we are trying to enter 111 manually. It should throw an error now. Yeah. Now, since we have told the database that, hey, I'm going to create an identity column, which means my system should take care of this, and it's going to be a primary key. Now, system says, no, hey, you cannot explicitly provide a value. You don't need to do that. Let me take care of it. So why don't we just remove all the column, all the values here? Yeah. See, the ID column is automatically populated with 1, 2, and 3. Now, now I call this as a surrogate key because this is just some random value, and I just assign certain rules to it. But every data that comes, when we say that the data should be uniquely identifiable, then it means there should be something from business that some value from business which uniquely identifies a record. And in this case, you see the first name and last name that can be. There are many people who can have the same first name and last name. That is possible. Age, date of birth, maybe still it's possible. But how about an email. Can two people have the same email? No, that is not possible. Now, an email is something which is you are uniquely able to identify a particular person. So that is a business key. A social security number is a business key. Aadhaar card, Aadhaar number is a business key. But when it comes to the system, it is all we don't want always to join based on if you identify the records based on email ID. This is for the system to understand it easily and to make the performance better. We always go for a surrogate key on the side, and we make in doing so, we should also make sure that this is unique. Now I tried to make it as unique. What happened? I defined my schema as I need the email to be unique, because for each I need to identify each record uniquely. The system brought me an error because what we tried to enter was john.luke@obscura.com. Now, no, that is not the way it should happen. That is what it's saying. It should be unique. So let's change the names. Email ID. This is John. So we have everything here. So the system allowed us. It will not allow us to enter a duplicate value for email. It makes sure that there is a ID column created. Okay. Now, right now you have data in the database. Now, how do you, in interviews, maybe you will face this question: how do I get? I'm only interested in a person named the person whose last name is Kim. I need to get records or data for a person with the last name Kim. That is what I need to do. Now, how do we write this? What does it mean? How do you get records for a person with the last name Kim? Now, that is where we write. Again, it's select star. So I forgot to tell you, like star means you will implicitly select all the columns in a particular table. You can also explicitly mention the column names. I'll explain. I'll tell you that. I'll show you that. So right now, let's just write last name equals. Okay. Let's run this again. Selecting run this. Yeah. So you see, now I only have records for Kim, a person with the last name Kim. Now we also I need let's say another scenario where we say I need to know a John. I want to know a John Luke. So or I want to get records only for John Luke. Now here, so I know the person's first name is John. What would happen when I write a query like where I have two John in my database. Now, which John am I looking for? Okay, now person says, hey, I'm looking for John Luke. I'm not looking for John Daniel. How do we do that? So we can tell, okay, I need a John, and also I need the John with the last name Luke. So you provide a where first name is John and a last name is Luke. See that? In a similar sense, what if like I need to know, okay, I'm definitely sure about like maybe like whoever is in the database with the first name John. I also am not sure. Like okay, I need to know whoever has the last name Luke, but I don't know if I'm looking for a John Luke. What are the other options I have? Like how do I select? What if I give an or? What would happen? So it can either be a person with a first name John. It can also be a person with a last name Luke. So if you change that and condition to an or condition, it would give you. So it's either a person with the first name John. You also have either the last name Luke and also the other one is since you are not very specific about it. Understood? Now, from here on, let's get in a couple of more records, okay? So that we'll. Okay. So I need to find out. One of the questions you might face is I only need records whose age is more than something. Let's say I need only people who are above 18. So what do we write in that case? How do we write it? What operator would be used? That is the right word. What operator would be using? So I just say age is greater than 18. So when we query, we shouldn't be getting. Did we run it? Okay, we have 4 records. So we are telling I need only only the people who are above 18 years of age. We are only getting records of people who are above 18 years of age. Now, what if someone says the question, how do I fetch the eldest person in the table? How do we do that? So first of all, we need to get the data in a particular order. Okay, so what is the syntax for that? Order by age. Now, what happened? SQL has automatically ordered everything, but you see, I not explicitly specified how I want it to be ordered. So implicitly, the order by always takes the ascending order. But what I want is I want the eldest person from this group. So what I do is I order it based on the age in the descending order, and then I say, hey, what I want is just the top first person because that should be the eldest. See how it's getting filtered. So always remember this from the questions that you might be getting. In a similar sense, there are other queries like this, like where clause. Let's get the. I need to know what is the average age of people in my organization. How do I do that? Now there is a command for average as AVG, and what do I need? Average of age from person. So right now it fetched me all the average of all the people, 10 plus 40 plus 20 plus 30 by 4. That is what we got.
Hey, we need just a health check. So let's ask the team. I mean, so is it clear till now, or do you have any questions till the topics? Because I think these are the few important interview questions also, right? I mean, these questions are always asked during most of the interviews, irrespective, even if you are into manual or automation. So just want to check with the team, right? I mean, it's been nearly an hour. So let's see. I mean, team, do you have any questions or anything? I mean, are you guys able to do it along with him? How's it going? Can you just quickly type in the chat box? Will be really great, right? Okay, I don't see any chat, so I think yeah. Now everyone is saying it's clear, it's good. Yeah, thanks, Ashwati. Thanks, Divya. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, let's continue. Let's continue, Vinny.
Thank you,
I think we are.
in fact, like if you have any specific questions, you can definitely ask. I'm sure that we'll not be able to cover a lot of things here, but it's just consider this as a start. And if you can come up with a question, if there was some specific need for you, you can definitely just put the questions in the chat. We'll try to answer them in this live session itself, or else definitely our team will get back to you. Please feel free to do it. Okay. Okay, so we'll just go ahead from here. So we collected the average, and now let's just say I have let's change them to a different city. Now my question is, what I want to know is, what is the average age of my people in different cities per city? So here, so I know, okay, I've created the average age. Now, what is the other column I need? Definitely, I need the city code. So we got it. So we're bringing in city code. Ideally, what should it give? It should give the city code as well as the average. So for each city, we are expecting 2 records. Now we run it. Right, it failed. Why? So what does the error code say? Select this because it is not contained either in an aggregate function or the group by groups. Okay, so whenever we use an aggregate function and you're pulling, you're trying to select another attribute along with it, you definitely need to provide a group by. We're grouping it by city code. Now what will it give me? Got it. Now enter the whole query. Priority. Let's change it a bit. The ages, because right now it's more. Yep. So you see, the average of all the people in Cochin is all the persons in Cochin is 35. The average of Trivandrum is 50. You can manually check that. For TVM, we have 20 plus 10, 30 by 2. That's 15. And 70 by 2. For Kochi, that is 35. You can, now you see, here we have not defined any column name. So SQL Server provides you an opportunity to provide an alias column name. So it's as average underscore age. Okay. Now, just as a start, I want to tell you there are certain best practices in SQL Server. This is definitely something I would see. I would want um, my QA engineer to come to tell me that the alias which I provided is something which is meaningful. And I've always seen this is quite with tablet sport. People writing things like all one. Always question these things. If you see anything that comes up from the database should make sense. If a column name is a random column, that shouldn't be the way. That is not a best practice. And that is the same case for every table creation, every column creation. Anything should have values. Nobody should design a table which says, hey, column one is first name. Then why is it named as column one? Why is it not first name? You should definitely question this. It's just a best practice, but it's good to have. That would be another interview questions. Usually, what I ask, what are the best practices in SQL Server? And this is one of many points like that. Like for example, always specifying schema name instead of just don't write. If anybody writes this person, no, that is not allowed. You should not do that. Because see automatically created. I don't know if I have the right permissions. I have not created a particular schema for you guys. So as I said, we can create the schema, but in this case, what would have happened is if I have COK.person defined and if I write just person, then definitely it is going to throw an error whenever somebody writes. So always make sure that your developer follows this. It's always schema plus table name. So that is another point. Now I just want to. I think we have already passed 8 o'clock. We just get into one more area where we actually define the relationships and make sure how data integrity works. Let's create another table called as role. Okay, and what are the columns that I need? I again create an ID column, which is integer and which is an identity column, and which is also my primary. Again, so we will there is a question that has come up. How would you find the second eldest guy? So there we can go ahead with, there is a something called as a rank function. You can use a row number function. Row number function. So what it essentially does is you can basically partition the records based on their age, and that's one way you can do it. We'll see if we can write that query, but before that, I actually let's go ahead with the identity, I mean data integrity part, and then if time permits, we'll definitely come to that. Yeah, but I hope you, this is, I mean, you can actually just query it like rank function in SQL Server. And then so what you do is you'll actually create a column and then just write where rank, that particular column name is a column value is equal to 2. That's what we should be doing. Right, then here T and let's create a role name. Java cat of 20 and then create. Now what I need is I need each person here to be assigned to different roles. So I want the person ID to be available, which is an integer column. Okay. Now I need to say that only the people whom we have in the person table can be assigned the role. That is a data integrity. We don't want anyone randomly creating a record saying, hey, it's not a, actually there is no person logged in, but then we have a role to a person who is not active in our system. That is not something what we want. So what do we do then? This is again another important question, a definite question that you guys would see here. That is, what is a foreign key primary key? So we've already defined a primary key for person. Now we use that primary key as a foreign key reference here in the role for the role table. Key or person ID. What does it reference? The references. Person. So what does this mean? Let's also insert into this table, insert the role table. 32 role values. I want to insert John loop. Okay, so I don't have to provide the ID column for role because that is automatically populated. What is the role name? And our role name is let's give them student. Okay, he is a student. And what is the other column? Well, we provided person ID. So what was the person ID for John? I'm assuming it was one person. We just, so here you can see that we have not actually provided what is the other, all the information for John. We'll get into that soon. Just query create one more record for the other person, Marshall Kemp, and let's create John Daniel as a teacher. Now let's create, let's run it and see. Okay. Yes, and let's, who do we have the role created? Yeah, we have the roles created. Now let's also query person. So you can see this. So the what we have what will happen if I try to enter a person ID who is not there in person table? I try to create a role for a person who is not in the person table. Okay, let's see that. What if I create somebody with, okay, we only have 4 records. Let's say this is a person ID with 5. You see, no, That's because of the drop. Oh, this is another interesting thing. I will come to that. I'll tell you why there was this error. But before that, let's see. Yeah. The insert statement conflicted with the foreign key FTA person ID. The conflict occurred in database this the table person column ID, which means we tried to insert a record into the role table, and that record is not available, is not being present in dbo.person. That is why we got this error. Now, what if somebody wrongly tried to insert it? What if I just make it as and saying that John Daniel Jr. is also a teacher? Will it work now? Okay, it worked. Now I need to see. Here we have established a reference between two tables, role and person. Now, how do I? A business says, okay, get me the email IDs for all the students which I have in the system. How do you get that? So let's write a query. Select video.person. What I want is the email ID. So usually when I query, so there are two ways to do that. This is again a design thing, like what is your primary table and what is your secondary table. So here, usually since I'm querying from person, I can consider that as the master table and write it as select. Let's write an alias here. Dot email. However, since I want only the students, the filter what I'm going to put is on role. So what I would actually do is role, okay, and I'll do an inner join, okay, inner join with role on what columns? On role. On role dot person underscore ID is equal to person dot ID. Why do we have an error here? Oh, okay. That is so stupid of me. Okay. Now I have all the email IDs, but what I want is I want only for students. So here I write where role dot role name equals student. So let's also make sure. So this is right. Name. Okay. So yeah, so it's a direct inner join saying, okay, I need just email IDs based on the role. Same way, what if you want for a teacher, you can run for teacher here. Then you will be getting all these records. Now I want to show you one of the let's go to one particular interview. Again, this is another scenario which somebody might come up with. Let's create one more person called as sample something. Okay, and we have not created any rules for that particular person. This is a new entry that is coming up. Okay, so let's just comment the Oh, okay. That's because of the unique constraint that we provided. So just pay attention to all these errors. Okay, so we entered this new person. It is his first name was Sample, and we have not assigned anyone. So let's see. Person email, and let's get the other person first name and person last name also here. Um, So one of the questions is like maybe something we face is I want to find a person without any role. How do we do that? I need to know that this is maybe an audit which I'm doing, and I want to tell them, tell others that hey, this person doesn't have a role. How do we do that? So this is a final one. Most probably, I think because we are actually running out of time. Um, if you can actually kind of tell us what would the query be, you can just write it down here. What would the requirement is? I need all the person without a role. How do I find that? Any volunteers? Okay, let's see. Let's try this. Really select. Person with role person dot id equal to role dot person ID. Okay. Now, if I run this, join is again an inner join. It implicitly takes it as join means inner join. Now, what if I do? I want the person, all the person. There is right now. What you are seeing is only the records with the role are being shown. Now, what happens when we do a left join? Now I got the other sample. So the person with the ID role, I mean ID 5, doesn't have a record in role, and that is the reason we are doing a join based on the person ID between role and the person. And since it was an inner join, we want only people with a role had shown up. Now my audit says, okay, I want to figure out who doesn't have a role. So now I know that okay, this person doesn't have a role. So how do I say that? Putting in a query, I'm only interested in that one particular record where I can say role name, any column from that column, role name or ID. This. Now what I'm getting is only that particular person who doesn't have a role assigned to him. Now this concept is something which you should know. What is a null? A null doesn't mean a blank field. It appears to be a blank field and it actually writes null, but you cannot query something like, you'll see null written. We cannot write is equal to null. This will not work. This will not work. means there is no record created. This is a this try to understand that concept. You're not saying that the record that attribute doesn't have any value, then it is a blank. It means that record is not created. And null is a very interesting design. At a design level, it is really interesting. So just get a grasp of this idea. Read a bit more about what does null mean, what does blank mean, because blank is something like this is blank. This is blank. It doesn't say null. It's blank. But that doesn't mean that record was not created. That record was created. But it is there is no value for it. So understand this concept. I think yeah, that is. I'll just give you guys some time to come up with questions, maybe.
Yeah. So I think we were discussing the important concept, right? I mean, join and all those things. So, so guys, I mean, please feel free to type in your questions, irrespective if you are in YouTube or if you are in Zoom. Please type in. I mean, if you want any topic to be repeated, especially joins are really critical. So, yeah, we are just waiting for your questions, and we can take one by one.
So in the meanwhile, I would again say ultimately we are learning all this to find a job, let's say. And what I would say is read. That is the first thing that you should do. You can start with W3 schools or tutorials point. All that would give you a structured way of learning. And I would say if you are somebody who has some sort of a programming knowledge, some idea about you are somewhere in the IT industry, it is very easy to get these concepts as a beginner. I very much wanted to go through some other topics like transactions, the rollback and commit, which we mentioned earlier. These are all key concepts you should definitely read about because I'll say from my experience that is something usually a new developer will miss out. That atomicity, what we mentioned, the transaction should always be complete. So usually what happens is this is again when you let's say that the ETL, you're becoming an ETL tester. The transaction control is very important. Take a scenario where you are reading some data from Excel sheet and you're inserting into a table. Now, what would happen if a job? What should happen? I'll say what should happen if the job fails in between. There are 100 rows to be inserted, and after 50 rows, the job failed. Now, what should happen over there? Should the 50 rows be inserted, or should the 50 rows be all the complete transaction should be rolled back? That is a question. So if you want your system to work, like the next time you run it, you want to enter the old data again, then which means ideally this is this transaction never got completed. This is from an ETL perspective. Okay, database testing, the other ATM transaction were at a record level. Now what I'm telling is when a bulk data is getting loaded. Now what will happen if 50 records are entered and the 51st record fail? Next time your SSIS package or your Informatica package, when it runs, what happens is if it tries to enter the already inserted 50 records, then there will be the same issue what we saw. If the system doesn't allow duplicates, then it will throw a referential integrity error. So that is the right name. It's a referential integrity. There is no data integrity within the table. How do you maintain this data integrity. It is a very crucial thing. If there are different ways to do it, and so this is another item which we could not discuss, but I would say read about it. Read about transactions.
Yeah, so maybe we can just show them the command of commit also. And I think people were asking about the joins. I mean, is there anything left in the join topic? So is there anything that need to be completed in joins?
In the same way, just like left join, you can have a right join. So essentially, what it does is the same thing. It's right now we said there is a person without any role. Now, what roles had like without any? Let's see what happens if we run a right join here. What happened? So now what it says is, so I've joined again with the let's just take role. No, sorry. Person dot start. See what happens. I think I should change. Let me give you guys another example. This is not the right. No. Records. However, we have roles for everyone. Now, let's say we created. This is not a good example actually. So, one example is the same thing. We need to hook up the data again. So, what if we had a role created? A role created without any person getting attached. What will happen? Right now, we will not have such a scenario because the role, we have made sure that there should be a referential integrity between person and the role. Now, what if we create something like, let's see if it allows. Well, yeah, it will not allow us because it's what is it? Allowed me null. Now I'm saying I need a role. What do we have? No records. So if I want,
Hey, Vineet, I think we have already reached our time limit 8:30. So I think we should take this as the next part. I think we also have TCL commands and other things, right? I mean, we already closed the time limit. So can we have this on the next session? Will that be okay? Vineet, are you there? Yeah. So
oh,
I
was
think
the
even
question addressed to me? I'm sorry.
yeah. I mean, it's already 8:30. I guess everyone might have different commitments, right? So maybe we should continue it as a different session. So I mean, with all the other commands and also we will definitely have SQL part 2, right? I mean, yeah, I think even the audience are also with that same point. So let's find up, Vineet. I think that will be fine, right?
Sure, definitely. We can go ahead with more commands and more hands-on in SQL actually. Much more tailored querying for what actually the QA engineers might need. Completely focusing on it, but we'll be more than
Correct.
happy to help. Yeah. Thank you
Correct.
guys.
Correct.
Actually, thank you for being a patient participant.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, thanks a lot, guys. So I just given the WhatsApp group link also. Feel free to join. So we'll try to come up with SQL session part 2 sometime later next month in the month of March. So thanks a lot, Vineet. I mean, this was a really good and detailed session, and we're gonna have one more session. So thanks all for joining. Thanks once again, Vineet, and stay tuned. Be safe. So we'll be coming up more sessions very soon, and also one more session for the SQL will be there.